Welcome, everyone. What a tremendous crowd to see up here in the garden. I'm Abby Taylor. I'm Chief of the Civil Rights Division in the Attorney General's office. And together with my amazing colleague, Elise Yannette, we are the MCs for today's event. We are so very excited to have you. It's amazing to see hundreds of school administrators, athletic directors, coaches, and referees gathered together in one room. And we can't thank you enough for taking time out of your busy schedules to come together as leaders in the work to prevent and address hate and bias on our athletic fields, in our locker rooms, in our schools, and in our broader communities. I just have a few quick program notes for the day before we get on to the program. We're going to start with opening remarks from the illustrious leaders to my sides, followed by our fabulous keynote speaker. Then around 10:15, we will divide into two groups, and you will have 10 minutes to transition to a breakout panel. You'll see that on the agenda. After that, at about 12:15, you'll have another 10-minute transition, and we'll come back together for a panel on building positive and inclusive sports environments. And that will be directly followed by an overview of the regional trainings, which will be the next step in this important initiative. At the conclusion of the program, we'll have lunch that you can grab and go, or you can stay and enjoy as you network with your colleagues. Today's program is packed with practical information and skills that you can bring back to your communities to prevent and address hate and bias. So please get ready to roll up your sleeves and begin this work with us. To that end, I'll refer you to a worksheet that you have in your packet that you can use as your own personal action plan. Yes, we're giving you homework. And you can bring it back to your community with the tools that you've learned today. So take a look and please use it throughout the day to organize your thinking around steps that you can take in your own schools and on your own teams. With that, I'd ask you to please silence your cell phones and get ready for a great day. And I'll turn things over to Elise to introduce our opening speakers.
Good morning. Thank you to all of you and all of the organizations represented here on stage today for your leadership and commitment to this important work. We are honored to have with us here today Attorney General and Governor-elect Maura Healey, and also with us our partners from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents, the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, and the Massachusetts School Administrators Association. And we also have representation here from all 7 of Boston's sports teams: the Celtics, Bruins, Red Sox, Patriots, Revolution, Renegades, and Pride. These Boston teams are composed of phenomenal leaders engaging in this important work, standing with us here today and with all of you. And with no further ado, I'll turn things over to my boss and mentor, the person who has brought us here together today and empowered all of us to do this work. It's my pleasure to introduce Attorney General and Governor-elect Maura Healey.
Thanks, Elise. Thanks, Elise. Thanks, Abby. Good morning, everyone. I am so psyched to see all of you. And, let me just say at the outset, thank you for everything that you do. You've chosen careers and professions that I think are about the most important thing you can be doing, and that is working with our young people. And the impact that you have, the potential for impact, is so incredibly profound. And as a resident of the Commonwealth, I just want to say how grateful I am to each and every one of you. And I thank you for taking the time to be here today. Today started with a conversation that we were having in the office one day about a year ago, and it was a conversation about seeing too much stuff out there, too much hate, too many incidents of racism, homophobia, sexism, you name it, right? I mean, it happens across this country. And it was happening, unfortunately, in Massachusetts. And kids model adults. And we've all seen, you live it every day. You know, our young people are confronting a lot. They're confronting a lot, especially having been through a lot with COVID. And you know, the anxiety, the worry, the pressures, all of that's only been exacerbated with the advent of social media. Thank God I didn't have social media growing up. So many things. We were talking about this a little while ago with Dana, who you'll hear from, but the opportunity for things to go so wrong, to go off the rails so easily for kids today is something that I never experienced, certainly never experienced as a student athlete. And so we thought we would want to gather together with our partners. You know, this office has always been about team, and I am psyched to look up and see all the different logos represented, to see all of our professional sports teams represented, to see everybody coming together in government, to have this conversation and to begin this work today. And when I say begin, I appreciate the ongoing effort that many of you have engaged in for a long time about how to empower yourselves, educate yourselves, to head off some of what we're dealing with and seeing. But today does begin a particular engagement. After this conference today, we hope to be convening around the state over the next several months 13 regional trainings. So we want you to leave here with good ideas, with enthusiasm, maybe with some swag. Thank you to those who provided that. And not just a free lunch, but really, really excitement about what we can do. And talk to your colleagues, you know, your administrators, your principals, your ADs, your coaches, community leaders, and encourage them to take part in the trainings that we're gonna have around the state. We've got people here from Barnstable to Chicopee. Like, that's amazing. At 8 o'clock in the morning. God bless you guys. Thank you so much. You're gonna hear from great folks in just a moment. I wanna thank Commissioner Jeff Riley from DESE. I wanna thank Superintendent Diane Kelly from the Revere Public Schools, representing the superintendents. Bob Baldwin, of course, from the MIAA, and also representing Massachusetts School Administrators Association. Great partners for this program and for our office over the years, the Anti-Defamation League of New England, as well as Northeastern's Center for the Study of Sport and Society. I do want to give a special shout out to the AGO team, Elise Yannette, Abby Taylor, Liza Hirsch, Catherine McGee, Allison Mitchell, and Sage Scott. So this is just about the beginning, and as I say, I'm grateful to all of you for being here today. I wish you and your families a happy, safe, and healthy holiday season, and we're gonna bring some positivity, we're gonna bring some empowerment, and we're gonna bring new ways of thinking about how to get after it. Every kid we make healthier, every kid we support, the ripple effects of that, you know all this, are profound. So thank you for taking the time to be here today, and I'll turn it over to our friend, Commissioner Jeff Riley.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you to Attorney General and Governor-elect Healy for your commitment to this essential cause and for bringing us all together here this morning. My name is Jeff Riley, and I am the Commissioner of Education in Massachusetts. As a kid growing up here, I remember Jim Rice coming out of the dugout to rescue a 4-year-old boy who had been hit by a line drive in his face, rushing him back into the dugout to the team doctor and eventually to the hospital. Jim Rice's quick thinking and reaction likely saved that boy's life. I remember when our Olympic hockey team, just a bunch of college kids really, many of them from universities right here in Boston, shocked the world to win the gold medal at Lake Placid. Flutie's Hail Mary pass. I remember when Patty Shea from my hometown, whose brothers I played soccer with, made the women's Olympic field hockey team not once, but twice. I remember Joan Benoit, in a Red Sox hat no less, winning the Boston Marathon, the ball going through Buckner's legs. And I remember an undersized point guard, who you hear from later today, shooting the lights out and putting the Boston College basketball program on the map. And this was just some of our sports histories in the 1980s. Think of how much history has happened since then. Sports have been intrinsically linked to our culture here in New England. Laughter, tears, inspiration, heroism, loss and victory. Sports give us and teach us so much. And nowhere are sports more impactful than with our youth. As the commissioner, my charge is largely the academic progress of our children. But I have long advocated for a more holistic educational approach that includes arts and athletics. There are life skills learned on a field, or a court, or on a stage that don't show up on an MCAS test, but I promise show up later in life. Schools and districts, in partnership with agencies such as the Attorney General's Office, the Mass Association of School Superintendents, the MIAA, the Mass School Administrators Association, DESE, and other community partners today are here to unite and continue to collaborate to eliminate unsportsmanlike and discriminatory behavior on our fields and in our stands. Our kids need a safe space where they can flourish and where they can compete. And it is up to us, the adults, to provide them with that opportunity. We are living in polarizing times, and the COVID pandemic has dysregulated many of our students. Now, more than ever, our kids need the gift of sports, and they need us to make it happen for them. I hope today's event further shines light on how important athletics are, as they provide students with opportunities for learning how to work well together with each other, how to achieve team goals, handle disappointments, see progress through practice, and experience joy and satisfaction in healthy ways. Thank you to all for what you've done, what you will continue to do on behalf of our students all over the Commonwealth. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Diane Kelly, Superintendent of the Rare Air Public Schools. Dr. Kelly.
Thanks, Commissioner Riley. Good morning to everybody, and thank you to Governor-elect Healy for bringing us together today. When I was thinking about what to say here, my mind was flooded with experiences that I've had or events that I've witnessed that represented hate and bias in school sports. And I'm sure that everybody in this room could come up with several contributing factors to that issue. I also thought about the promise that we make as educators. It's something that we repeat every time we find issues in our school, and it typically goes something like this: student safety is our #1 priority. Almost every notice from a superintendent to families and staff notifying them of some issue begins with those words. Student safety is our #1 priority. More on this in a moment. We also talk quite frequently about the very positive impact that youth athletics can have on students, how to be part of a team, to put the team before oneself, to develop leadership skills, the value of practice in all endeavors, and the amazing things that we can do when we have faith in ourselves and work really hard. I would bet that almost any person who engaged in youth sports or school sports can point to a particular coach and describe them as having changed my life. All wonderful things. We talk less often about the structures and experience that lead kids to feel differently about their engagement in youth sports. And that's why MASS is so excited to partner with DESE, MIAA, MSAA, the Attorney General's office, and soon the Governor's office, and our local sports teams to really focus on the ways that we can all ensure that our actions guarantee students have more of those life-changing positive experiences while simultaneously working toward the elimination of situations in which students feel, or in fact are, hazed, bullied, and disrespected. Last year, when we met virtually to start this conversation, my predecessor, Tim Pavovar, spoke about core values and how our core values are realized in our actions and in our inaction. Basically, he said, we need to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. And his comments, coupled with that idea I mentioned a minute ago that so many districts, school, and elected officials embrace, the stance that student safety is our #1 priority, really shaped for me the importance of this work that we're all engaging in. But if student safety is truly a core value, if we truly want to live the words, student safety is our #1 priority, it can't be just in reference to physical threats to our schools. It also needs to be about student social and emotional well-being. We need to intercede as adamantly when students' emotional well-being is threatened. Our work today is to determine what we as a community will and will not tolerate in relation to hazing, bullying, and disrespect on our fields and in our programs. Whether these issues involve parents, students, coaches, or other members of the community. Our youth athletic programs are in jeopardy, not only because of locker room issues, but also because of the disrespect and bullying of our coaches and game officials. It cannot and should not be tolerated. Our kids need us to not tolerate it. We can work together to communicate our expectations and support each other as we hold participants to them. Our professional athletes, our coaches, our athletic directors can model good sportsmanship and work with the rest of us to respond swiftly and hold accountable folks who violate any stated norms. And communication is the key. Along the chain of command in our K-12 schools and beyond, we need to have open dialogue so that we can support each other. We need to communicate expectations to the community at large and be clear about consequences. If we unite on these matters, they will be easier for each of us to confront and enforce. As a follow-up to the great day we're about to enjoy together and the work that we've launched here, I urge all of us to include student athletes and their caregivers, as well as our counterparts in other youth sports organizations, to expand our community of change makers and ensure the emotional and physical safety of our student athletes. I hope we can all work more together to make our voices heard and make change in this area. Thank you very much. And it's now my pleasure to introduce Bob Baldwin of the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Massachusetts Administrators Association.
Thank you so much, Diane. I'm honored and humbled to be here as the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association and the Massachusetts School Administrators Association. I'm grateful, so grateful to the Attorney General and Governor-elect Healy for her championing this event and this initiative to move forward, and all the amazing people in her office who helped put this together. When people say, what do we do with the MIAA? People are quick to say, well, you're a regulatory agency and you run a statewide tournament. We're trying to flip that. When I talk all over the state about turning the aircraft carrier, no, it's about educational-based athletics. It's about what a child or student athlete is today and what they behave like when they're 30 to 35 years old. What did they learn through athletics in defeat? in how to deal with a victory, in how to make decisions based on their goals, on how to work together that make us who we are, and we all know that who are in this audience today. So our initiative is about the educational-based athletics side, the why side, and that is why we have established and adopted a statement of growing courageous leaders, and that starts with me and every one of us and all of the 15, 16, and 17-year-olds that we deal with on the way up. Beginning in the fall of 2021, we started a pilot program for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it created a discriminatory incident reporting form. And that allows us to know what's going on in the Commonwealth. And as of this date, there have been 35 incidents that have been reported to our offices. We also put together a pledge that student athletes would take before the season started. And as you all know in this room, when you do something that you believe is right, everybody just always agrees with it. No, everybody always has something to say about it. So what we did with this pledge when we went out this fall is we started to say, from Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, consider the absurdity of the opposite of what you're saying you're not going to sign off on. And I'd like to read just 3 of the 7 pieces of this pledge. Consider the absurdity of the opposite of consistently modeling respect and tolerance by setting an example of good sportsmanship and positive behavior, including language, body and spoken, gestures, signs, and overtures. Consider the absurdity of the opposite of that. Why wouldn't you sign on to that code of conduct? Consider the absurdity of the opposite of holding myself and my fellow student athletes and our community responsible and accountable for their actions. Consider the absurdity of the opposite of that. And finally, consider the absurdity of the opposite of thriving to create a school without hate. Seriously? What we're talking about is the way we behave, the way we are as human beings, and I believe that what we can do in athletics can carry over to what our society so deeply and dearly needs. Eradicating hate and bias through the platform of sports is a Herculean task, and we cannot do this work alone. That is why the championing by the Attorney General's office, Governor-elect Healy, and all the important players is so important. We, the Superintendent's Association, the MIAA, the school administrators, and DESE are the partners that have those individuals that can get this work done. But we also know that we cannot do it alone, and we need the expertise of the great people from the Anti-Defamation League and the amazing work that's about to be done by the Northeastern University School of Sport and Society and the work that they'll be doing in performing all this. Together, we can make this happen. So in closing, let's utilize interscholastic athletics as the platform that promotes behavior change and supports the respectful treatment of all members of a school community. Let's collectively provide the support and resources that promote these behaviors that instill respect for team, self, opponents, officials, rules in the game itself, and let us all lead by example and seize the collective power of positive influence that student athletes and teacher coaches share as role models to empower all participants in the process of positive decision making. I'd now like to turn this over to Elise, and let's get this thing going.
It is now my privilege to introduce the people here from all 7 of Boston's professional sports teams. Glenn Thornborough is the Chief Revenue Officer of the Boston Bruins and TD Garden, overseeing marketing, communications, community relations, and sales efforts. Rich Gotham is the President of the Boston Celtics. He has been with the Boston Celtics, the 17-time world champion Boston Celtics, since 2003. Under his leadership, the Celtics lead the NBA in community engagement with initiatives focused on helping tens of thousands of children each year. Josh Kraft is the president of Kraft Family Philanthropies and is responsible for the Kraft family's many philanthropic efforts, including but not limited to the Patriots Foundation, the Revolution Charitable Foundation, and the Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism. Sarah McKenna is the Senior Vice President of Fan Services and Entertainment with the Boston Red Sox, responsible for fan services, ballpark engagement, and Red Sox productions. She serves on the club's Social Justice, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee and has been instrumental in the execution of creating a welcoming environment at Fenway Park. Adrienne Smith is a wide receiver on the Boston Renegades. She won her third Women's Football Alliance title with the Boston Renegades in 2019 and a fourth in 2021. She has been named an All-Star not once, not twice, but 10 times. Colleen Coyne is the president of the Boston Pride. She herself is an Olympic gold medalist, winning a gold medal with the U.S. Women's Olympic Hockey Team in Japan in 1998. She is also a proud native of Massachusetts, born and raised in Fall River. And it is now my honor to welcome Glenn Thornborough to the stage.
Thank you very much, and welcome to the TD Garden. We have had a fun run here with the Celtics and the Bruins over the last few months, so it's been a very fitting place, I think, for to host. Thank you very much, Governor-elect Healy, for spearheading this commitment here at the Bruins. We're first of all very honored to be here and speak in the panel with this wonderful cast of executives. I'm a father of two teenagers, one hockey player and one dancer, so this is near and dear to my heart as well, a 13-year-old and a 16-year-old. And it's not missed on us the value the brands have, the significance the players play in this journey. And we are very committed to continuing to help do our part with not just the executives within the Bruins, our ownership, our commitment, our efforts through not just the organization, but hockey operations and our foundation and all the tremendous, fantastic work they do with Boston versus Bullies, all the integration we have with Score Boston, mentorship programs we have with hockey operations. The power of these brands in the City of Champions, and you look up to the rafters and see it's the kids in the community, especially now with social media tied to their phones, how they receive information, they're little newscasters, and our commitment to this initiative is continued education. And sometimes we falter, but our goal is learning. Our goal is education at all levels, from ownership, where it really starts, on through the organization. We, again, appreciate everyone's efforts, the significant amount of people that are here. The passion from the speakers today is very contagious. And we are very lucky to be part of this initiative. I'd like to pass it over to a friend of mine, a president of the Boston Celtics and one of the best executives in the city, Rich Gotham.
Thank you for that overly kind introduction. Hey, good to see everyone. I know a lot of you have traveled. That was impressive because I know you were all up very late last night watching the Celtics 10 o'clock start against the Phoenix Suns. Good news is we got up by 40, so you could go to bed early if you chose to. Nice to see you here. Whenever I look out, I can only sort of look out and think about Celtics fans sitting in these great seats that you're in. So we're gonna run your credit cards on the way out, if that's okay. These are expensive seats, as Glenn can tell you. I figured by the time I got up here to talk, most of the good stuff would have been said, and it has. So I'll take the easy way out and and do what I usually do at the Celtics, which is pretty easy. When you work for the Boston Celtics, you sort of get to stand on the shoulders of giants. None bigger than the number 6 up there in the rafters. That's Bill Russell's number. We've spent the season, thank you, honoring Bill Russell, who passed away recently. Bill once said, "There's no such thing as other people's children." And I think that's an especially relevant point for this group of people here today. You all have extremely important roles in the lives of other people's children. And it's a big responsibility, and we all share it. We share it. The sports teams in town here share it. You share it. You need to model the right behaviors. Kids know the difference between words and actions. So we're really happy to be here, along with coaches, athletic directors, referees, teachers, principals. You're really the front lines of this stuff. And so while we try to support it and do the right things and shine a light on these issues as sports teams, we can't do the work that you do. And it's a big responsibility, and we applaud you for it, and we're honored to be here today and to be part of this. And we also thank Attorney General Healy, or Attorney General and Governor-elect Healy, for inspiring us all to be here today, because it's important, and she's right. There's things that happen, and when you think about sports should be the one place where we're all united, right? And we're supposed to feel good about coming together, and it's supposed to bridge all these gaps that we've got, whether they're economic gaps, racial gaps, educational gaps. And you hope sports is the neutralizer, or something that sort of creates an even playing field for everyone and is free of hate and discrimination. But the reality is it's not true. So while I'm honored to be here, I'd be more honored if none of us had to be here. But we do need to be here, and we do need to double down. We've just got to keep working at this issue. I'm getting pretty old. I'd like to see some progress made in my lifetime. And I think events like this are a good start, to the extent that everyone takes the baton and really runs with it and does their part. I think we got to put pressure on ourselves, right, to do this, because it can be uncomfortable. We deal with a lot of issues at the Celtics with our Celtics United for social justice and racial equity. And some of our programs that we roll out through the school systems, like the Playbook Initiative, which tries to bridge differences between kids from different communities who grow up differently, who live differently, who have different circumstances. It's all really important work, but it's not easy work. It's hard work, right? And so we've got to be committed to doing the hard work. At the Celtics, we are committed. It doesn't mean we do everything right all the time. We run into the same difficult situations that school systems run into. And we do our best to respond the best way we can. And I think one thing that we can all learn and understand and think about, unfortunately, things happen. When they do, it's how we as the adults, respond to those events when they do happen that teach us the best lessons, teach our kids the best lessons. So we've got to be mindful of that as we go forward in our work. I think ultimately an event like this is a good step, right? But it's a first step. And hopefully we keep together, all of us. The Celtics will do our part to try to shine a light on initiatives like this, not just here today, but in an ongoing fashion. And we're thankful to be in partnership with the Attorney General's office, with the MIAA and others to really try to make a difference. So I'd like to say thank you all again for your commitment. Just by being here, you're showing a level of commitment. You don't have to be here. I'm quite sure no one told you this is mandatory. If they did, good for them, because you should be here. But ultimately, thanks for being here, and thanks for being a part of it and allowing the Celtics to be a part of this day. And from that, I will hand it off to Josh Kraft, who was introduced earlier, so I'll say no more. Thanks, Josh.
And, thank you, Governor-elect Healy, for putting this important event together. And first and foremost, a debt of gratitude to the administrators, teachers, and athletic directors here for educating kids, instilling values in kids across the Commonwealth, especially coming out of the pandemic. I'm sure you all never want to hear the words, "we have to pivot again." So thank you for that. Just briefly, the greatest show of unity, one of the greatest shows of unity we have in this country is during victory parades. And we're spoiled here because we've had so many of them over the last 20 years. But when you're out on that parade or route, watching it on TV, whatever, you don't see people's socioeconomic status, you don't see where they worship, you don't see who they love, you might see the color of their skin, but in the end, all you see is their passion and their sense of unity in the celebration. And those values are what all of you instill in the students in your schools, whether they're on teams, drama club, glee club, intramural teams. And those values are what carry forth and make our community so strong. And the fact that you're here today means you believe in those values as well. So on behalf of all of us up here, again, our sincere gratitude for coming out today to this important conference. And with that, I want to turn it to Sarah McKenna from the Boston Red Sox.
Thank you, first and foremost, for everyone for practicing the values that brought us here today and not booing me off the podium with all the recent Red Sox news. I'm Sarah McKenna, proud graduate of Springfield Cathedral High School, which is now Pope Francis. And after a stint working in San Diego for the Padres and Oregon, I find myself back at home at Massachusetts and being able to go to Fenway Park every day. I'm also proud that in my role at the Red Sox, I've been able to work with great people like Pete Smith from the MIAA on working on sportsmanship awards. And I'm grateful to Attorney General and Governor-elect Maura Healey for inviting us here today, together with the Patriots, Celtics, Bruins, Revolution, Pride, Renegades, and all our partners who take part in the Take the Lead program, which is a first-of-a-kind coalition to stand up against hate and hate speech in each of our facilities. The speakers before me and the others after are all leaders in their field, and I don't want to be redundant or take too much of your time because there's so many important topics to touch upon. But we at the Red Sox want you to know that we stand firmly together with everyone here in our commitment to eradicate hate, promote respect and tolerance, and ensure that Fenway Park is a place where everyone feels welcome. Before I turn it over, I will share these 2 points. I'm here today representing the Red Sox, an iconic franchise with a troubling past and an ever-evolving future. And while the goal on the playing field for the 25 individuals who suit up every night is to win a game, for me and for the Red Sox, another goal has to be to make you feel like you're part of something that's bigger than yourself. A member of a unified, diverse team comprised of people from all over the world in all walks of life, engaged in good and healthy us against them competition. And we found that to build that momentum, you have to define who you are, what you're going to stand for, and what you will not tolerate in the space that you can control, and then put that into action. And my second message is to remind you to listen today, because if you're not listening, it's hard to achieve empathy and inclusion, and both matter. Because I know you're going to hear about how the little things matter, how music choices in your venues matter and they make people feel welcome, how acknowledging holidays and being thoughtful about what you post to your team's social media really matters. So please, when you leave here today, I hope you take the time to define who you are, seek out those voices that maybe you're not hearing as often, and chart your path towards growing your community and getting everyone on the team. Now I'm going to kick it over to Adrian Smith, wide receiver from the 7-time champion Boston Renegades.
Thank you, everyone, so much. Attorney General, Governor-elect Healy, thank you for having us. I am here to represent the Boston Renegades, and I'm extremely proud of playing for the Renegades, not only because we have won 7 championships, but because of the work we do as a team off the field. Our owner, Molly Goodwin, is seated here, and during the pandemic, during the Black Lives Matter movement, she really took it upon herself to establish the Boston Renegades as an organization that was open to learning and open to growing. So in the spirit of that, I'm going to share a very personal anecdote. When I look across this room here, I see educators. I come from a line of educators. My mother and father were teachers. I know the power of being an educator, and I want to impress upon you all the theme for today is to stop hate. And how do you do that, Adrian? You stop hate by demonstrating love. And I want to talk to you about my coach. His name was Buddy, my coach Buddy, when I was in the 4th grade and I played for the local softball team. I happened to be the only chocolate chip in that bowl of milk, but my teammates, they saw no color, and I felt welcomed. I was a shortstop. I was a great shortstop. And we happened to go to another town where we played a game. And unfortunately, they weren't as excited about chocolate chips as my team was. And after the game, we beat them soundly. Some of the other parents, they got into their feelings, they were upset, and they started approaching me and my mother. And it was the first time and the only time in my life where she actually moved me behind her to protect me. And I was nervous, I was scared, I didn't understand. You know, it's softball, we're kids, we're having fun. And that's when my coach Buddy, a white man, stepped up. He stepped up, he diffused the situation, he ensured that my mother and I got back to our cars safely. And I've never forgotten that. And in my mind as a child, I carried that with me through junior high school, through high school. And that's why I'm looking at all of you, because you are in positions of power. You have the ability to be coach buddies and to make sports a safe, loving, caring place for kids. And I want to thank you all for your time. As has been stated before, you came here, you showed up, which means you have a commitment to making a difference. And for me, you have all of my respect. Thank you. Next, I want to turn it over to Colleen Coyne, an Olympian, gold medalist.
Thank you all for coming. I mean, I think that, again, all of the really important things have been said. I do want to just note that the reason that this happened was because bad things were happening in our school sports. And while it may not, and it did not, happen in most of your communities, it did happen in our state and in our larger community as athletes. And so I'm going to close out and hand it over to Elise, but as you're getting started in the program today, just keep in mind that this is our opportunity to focus on the problem and try to find ways to address it and prevent it from happening in the future. It's never going to be 100% preventable, but I think that with the tools and the strategies that you'll learn today and moving forward, you'll all be in position to help cut it off at the knees and really move forward, because sports are so important and we need more kids playing sport, not less. And with these difficult situations, some of our best athletes, some of our best student athletes are dropping out because it's not comfortable for them. And it's just way too important to let that happen. So it's incumbent upon all of us to make sports a welcoming and safe place where anyone feels like they can join, they can participate and feel welcome and have a really positive experience. And I'll just end with one little message that I got in a conversation with a gentleman where he pointed out the fact that, as you're going through school from kindergarten all the way through college and post-grad, you have teachers and tutors helping you. They're gonna help you along the way. Everybody's trying to help you. Sports is the only place where someone is actively trying to make you fail. And you have to figure out a way around it. And it teaches you how to get up when you get knocked down, and that's the only platform where we learn those skills. So super important. Thank you all for coming out. It means so much. Thank you, Governor-elect Healy, for inviting me and all of us to be here, and I hope that you all have a really great program and great day and get a lot out of it. Bring it back home.
Before we introduce our keynote speaker, please join me in giving a final round of applause to all of our kickoff speakers. Thank you guys so much for your leadership and for being here today. And now I'd like to welcome back Attorney General Healy to introduce our keynote speaker.
Thank you so much, Elise. And again, big time thanks to Elise, to Abby and the team for putting this all together. Yes, thank you. You guys are great. And I do want to thank all of our partners, but especially our professional sports teams and the folks at TD Garden for welcoming us here today and for their commitment to this really important issue. And as a kid who grew up, my stepdad coached me in soccer and basketball. My mom's still a school nurse. The point about the role that you all play in people's lives is so incredible. And you think about Adrienne, what an amazing athlete, Colleen Coyne, and you think about what might have happened if Coach Buddy didn't do what he did. And sometimes it's our actions, and sometimes it's our inactions that are the fail. And the last thing I want to say is don't be afraid to be vulnerable, and don't be afraid to fail. I can tell you as Attorney General, we've had a lot of hard conversations. This stuff is not easy. And there are some who are too quick to judge, and there's a lot coming at you with all these situations. But I just encourage you to have the openness, to stick with it and to learn. And, for me, it's a work in progress. But this is all about trying to do what we can to empower ourselves so that each and every child, yes, will want to play sports, but more importantly, will grow with the esteem and with the confidence that you gain through the student-athlete experience. So again, I thank you all for this, and it is the beginning of a year-long effort. And I truly believe in this state, we're about winning. How many titles? You lose track. I don't care what great stud players are coming or going. We always seem to manage to win. We're going to win. So whatever's going on elsewhere, let's make this Commonwealth special in this time. Massachusetts is great. And I know that with each and every one of you doing the work that you're going to do, we can do so much for our kids, and we are going to be so much better as community and as state for it. So thank you. Now, I'd like to introduce our fabulous keynote speaker. I mentioned I was a basketball player, and growing up, watching a lot of Big East, didn't get to see you at Xaverian, where we know you crushed it on the football field and on the basketball court. But I think for those of us of a certain age, it's funny listening to Jeff Riley go through all those sports moments here. Certainly an iconic figure in our town is Dana Barros. Dana Barros, a native of Boston, of Mattapan. He was an All-American football and basketball player at Zavarian Brothers right in Westwood. He could have gone anywhere in the country, but he chose to stay here, played at BC, dominated at BC. He was known as one of the greatest three-point shooters in history, drafted 16 overall back in the '89 draft by the Seattle Supersonics. Fortunately for us, he did join and rejoin the Boston Celtics as part of a stellar 14-year career in the NBA, highlighted by an All-Star award. And Dana today does really important work. We appreciate who he is and is, look at him, as an athlete. But the reason he's here today is because of those experiences, yes, along that way, but also his work owning, operating the Dana Barros Basketball Club facility in Stoughton, leading on community outreach. And we are just so grateful that you would join us. Look forward to everything you have to say. And it's great to have you back out here on the court. Let's give it up for Dana Barros.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you guys for coming out. I'm just going to talk a little bit about my story. It correlates exactly what we're trying to do today. And I think it's important to show how, like Mara said, what I'm doing today kind of rounds it all into space. So I was born in Mattapan, raised my whole life. My mom and dad were 15 when they had me. So my first experience of basketball, this great sport that I love, I went to my dad's junior college game when I was 3 years old, and I remember sitting in the stands in this unassuming gym, rickety old gym. There might have been 10 people watching this game, but for some reason, I watched in amazement. I said, this is what I want to do. No spectacular thing to talk about the game. I just looked at this sport and said, this is what I want to do. And from that point on, I cannot tell you a time that I didn't have a basketball in my hand. When I was growing up, they used to call me ball boy in Mattapan. Because every time you see me, I had a ball with me. Whether it was if I'm on my bike, the ball was under my shirt. And it was a joke. It was a big joke to everyone. And they used to call me like I was the weirdo with the ball all the time. But this is how in tune with basketball I was. And again, I'm 55, so there's no computers, no cell phone, no internet. There's nothing. My grandmother who raised me would say, go outside, come back at lunch. I eat my Captain Crunch berries, go to the park, eat lunch, go back to the park. That's what I did 15 hours a day. So as I'm going on, I remember I'm getting pretty good in basketball. I remember I'm in 8th grade, and my mother, I never got less than a C ever in my life. And 1st through 8th grade, I had perfect attendance in 6 of the first 8 years of school. So it didn't matter what happened to me. I could have, bust my head wide open. If I'd have to go to the ambulance, I was going to school the next day. That's how important school and was to my grandmother. And she used that in terms of me playing basketball. So I remember sitting at St. Angeles one day. It's 8th grade, and I'm the cool basketball kid. And I remember sitting there, and then there was a knock at the door, and there's a little square in the school doors where you can see the glass, and I'm looking through, I'm like, that looks like my mother. I'm like, why is my mother here? So I'm like, okay. Door opens up, she doesn't speak to anyone, and she just says, come here, boy. And she took me downstairs to the boys' locker room, walked into the boys' locker room. Where's your locker? Took all my stuff out the locker, and I didn't play basketball the whole rest of the year. And I remember the basketball coach called my mother, she hung up on him. The principal called my house, my mother hung up on him and said, if you call here again, I'm taking him out of the school. So I knew from that point that I could not play this sport without having A's and B's, and that's how my whole life growing up was. So then my mother says, take this test. I want you to take this test because I don't want you to go to school in Boston. I want you to try to go to school somewhere else. Whatever, Mom. I take this test. She says, you pass. I show up at Zavarian on the first day, all boys school, had no idea. Walking in there, she thinks it's hilarious. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Like, I don't, you know. So I show up at Xaverian, there's 600 kids, and there's 4 young black kids, and there's only 4 of us. And I remember, it was such a difficult time for me walking through that school, and immediately it changed. Because second period of the day of my first day, we had recess, and we played flag football, and we went outside, and we picked teams. And anyone who knows sports, as soon as you pick teams, you get together, what's up, it's Dana, I'm Dana. And you have to introduce yourself to everyone. And all that breaks down, and now you're all on the field together trying to figure out how to win. And that to me was the icebreaker for me, because I had never, been in a situation where I was the boy in the glass bubble. And that really took kind of the pressure off for me, sports did, for that time at Xaverian. So I go through Xaverian, and I had this coach. And this is this coach story that you hear all great athletes have, or mediocre athletes have, I guess you could call it. So I have this coach, and every free period I had, from the time I went there, he would say, I want you to come down to the gym, and I want you to work on your shooting. And I hated this guy. And back then we had to use a payphone, so I would spend 75 cents just to call my mother and say, I don't want to be here. I can't, every free period I have, he's calling me down to the gym. He's finding me where I'm at, and he's making me work on this stupid shot. He gave me this book with stick figures. One picture's like this, and the next picture's like, and I'm like, didn't understand it. So, obviously I had to stay at the school, and I started to learn the discipline of basketball. I would have to ride home with him every day, because I took the bus. It was an hour and 45-minute bus ride for me to get to school in an hour and 45 minutes. So he would give me a ride home halfway, and I would get in his car, and I would say, why doesn't he have a radio in his car? I'm like, what? And he would preach to me for 40 minutes on this ride. And I ended up calling him Grasshopper, because he was like, yes, Grasshopper. He was like my grasshopper. And he taught me how to shoot. He taught me the discipline of basketball. He taught me how to be a professional when I was only in high school. Because I just went out on the court and played. I never practiced a drill one day in my life. I never knew the concepts of basketball. And he would sit me down and he would explain basketball to me. And he was more kind of like, I'm not going to say a father figure, but he was more like a mentor to me. And he taught me how to play in so many ways, and he taught me the aspects of the game, because I would go into a game and they would put a football player on me, and they would try to get me into a fight to cause me to get kicked out of the game, whatever. And he really taught me how to understand that. So now I go to Boston College, I get a scholarship, and I'm on a football visit to Boston College, and I go, not a basketball, Doug Flutie. Doug Flutie takes me around on a football visit, and we play basketball for 2 days straight. That's all we did on the football visit. And Doug Flutie loved basketball. So I get probably junior year of college. I start realizing I might have a chance to make it to the NBA. So keep working on my game. And here's where my coach comes in. My high school coach, he used to come to my college games. And he used to always pull me to the side, this and that. And so he stayed connected to me throughout this whole time. So I'm graduating Boston College, and it's the NBA draft. And this is a great story, because I look back on it, and today it's like it just happened yesterday. So NBA drafts, I'm in Chicago. On the day before the draft, I'm in Chicago. Michael Jordan's my favorite player. I have pictures of me in high school with my tongue out in every picture. If Michael Jordan had on a knee brace, I would fake like I had a knee injury and put a knee brace on. This is how, and I'm in high school sleeping with a Michael Jordan basketball. Okay, this is how crazy I am. So I'm in Chicago on the day of the draft, and they're telling me they're going to pick me with the 21st pick, and I'm like, I cannot believe this is about to happen. So I go back home. I can't tell anyone. There's no email, no cell phone. So I get back home, and it's the night before the draft. I tell everyone I'm going to play for the Bulls. And I'm like, yes, this is my lifelong dream. Next day the draft comes, there's 300 people at my house. I just leave, I go to my friend's house, and I'm watching the draft with my friend. Nobody knows I left. And I'm watching, it's the 16th pick, and I'm just talking to my friend. I'm like, I'm going to Chicago. and David Stern says, with the 16th pick, Seattle Supersonics select Donna Barriossi. I'm like, who the hell is Donna Barriossi, right? So my friends hit me like, yo, that's you. And I'm like crying like a baby, like bawling, crying. Not because I'm happy. I'm in the NBA, just got picked 16th, and I'm bawling, crying because I did not want to go to Seattle. I had to go to, I wanted to go to Chicago, play with MJ. So, long story short, I get to Seattle, I get to play with Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. I had an amazing 4 years there, but the first game I ever played in the NBA was against the Chicago Bulls. It's in the Kingdome where the seat, the Mariners play. There's 60,000 people for an exhibition game. And we're playing the Chicago Bulls. And I'm standing in the warm-up line. I'm not even warming up. I'm just holding the ball, watching MJ. And I'm saying, damn, he's way bigger than I thought. He's like 6'7" with an 8-foot wingspan. But I'm just in amazement, and I'm just in awe. So the game starts. I don't start the game, but I remember getting in the game like halfway through the first quarter. And I remember getting the ball, running up and down the court, didn't touch the ball. I get the ball this is a true story, I swear to you. I've told the story hundreds of times to my kids. I catch the ball, the first time I catch the ball ever in the NBA, I turn around, Michael Jordan is in my face like this. I swear to you, this close to me, I'm like, that's Michael Jordan. I'm holding the ball like this, and I'm saying, I have laid in the bed so many nights saying, I'm gonna play one-on-one with this dude. I'm at the park by myself, playing one-on-one with a fake person, but people driving by thinking I'm out of my mind, crazy, and he's right here. And I did this. I said, Sean, get out the way. Sean Kemp is like, give me the ball. And I'm like, get out the way. And Mike thought that was hilarious. He's like, oh, you want to play one-on-one? So I'm like, yeah, I want to play one-on-one. So, and he says, Dana, you're not shooting no threes on me. And I'm like, how does he know my name? But I realized we had scouting reports, so he knew the scouting report. So long story short, I jab base, and I go baseline, and I'm like going to dunk the ball. I could dunk easily back then. So I'm going to dunk and I take off too early. And I'm like, I'm not gonna make it. So I go to like finger roll the ball like this, and this big hand just came out of nowhere and slapped the ball like 10 rows into the stands. Everybody's laughing. Everybody's cracking up. And the craziest thing happened to me. Michael Jordan came up and he put his arm around me and he said, I love that little man. And every game, for the next 11 years that I played against this man, every time I got on the court, he would say, I got Dana. And he had this saying, me and you, mostly me. And he would say that to me all the time because he's saying, me and you gonna play, but it's gonna be mostly me playing. So I tell that story to my kids all the time because I tell them, and it's what someone else earlier said, you cannot be afraid to fail. If I would have walked out there and said, oh my God, it's Michael Jordan, he would have never spoke to me again. He would have probably just dunked on me and walked off the court, and I would never have had that experience. You cannot be, and that's what sports is about to me. That's what I teach to my 40 teams that I coach in AAU at my basketball club. You cannot be afraid to fail. Okay, and sports encompasses everything. I don't care if you're the smallest kid, the biggest kid, and Rich Gotham will tell you as Celtics president, sports is all encompassing. When you go to an NBA locker room, you might have a 70-year-old coach, a 19-year-old rookie, 3 European players. It's a mess. And we all have to come together and make it work. And that's what sports does. It brings everyone together. And that's what I do now. I have the Dana Barros Basketball Club, all the people in the city who looked out for me, kept me out of trouble, made sure I was not at this area when I wasn't supposed to be. All those people, that's what I do this for. And I cannot tell you how many times parents walk into my facility and say, I cannot tell you how you have changed my son or daughter. Your programming, this coach, what you're doing here has changed, completely changed my son or daughter. And that's where I think we have to understand the impact that sports has on everything. When I was growing up, all I knew was sports and music. I had never been outside of Mattapan. I didn't know what even Philadelphia, I never knew what none of these places even looked like. I lived in a little plastic bubble, and sports allowed me to take myself all over the world, change the whole life and trajectory of my family, my parents, and my kids. I went to college free, all because of sports. And it's not just the physical aspects. And I tell kids, if you cannot do something you love like basketball or football or wherever and go to practice every day, if you don't want to go to practice every day to do something you like, you're going to have a serious problem in the world. Because this is what teaches us the discipline that we have to be every day. It's like going up, getting to work. Going to work every day. And I put that responsibility on those kids, especially the older kids. But we're all coaches in some aspect or manner. If you're in the school system and you're around kids, you're all coaches in some aspect. And just think about this lastly. When you watch every sport and they're giving you the E60 story, right? The inside story on this guy or that young lady or this lady or this guy, there's always that one guy, that one coach, that one mentor, that one uncle, that one school administrator that's always in that story. They're always in that story. And that's what you guys are. That's what we are. I never knew the influence that I had until now. And we have to take advantage of that. We are a kid might come to you and tell you things that they wouldn't tell their parents. That's what you have to be open to. That's what you have to be available for. And I just, again, thank Mara for having me come to speak to you guys. I'm passionate about kids. This is what I've done for 30 years. I've had camps since 1989 and never not had a camp since 1989. There's probably 60, 70,000 kids that have come through my camps in those years. And the proudest thing that I can say is all those kids have said either they had a great time, they learned a lot, or they told me, your mother and your grandmother changed my life. Because my mother and my grandmother, they were like the principals of my camp and my businesses. And other parents gave my mother and my grandmother the right to discipline their kids. That's how influential they were in my life and in other people's lives. So again, lastly, you guys be those influencers, be those people that the young people can come talk to. Even though it's in a sports environment, it could be anything in life that you could be helping these young people through. So again, thank you for being here. Good luck, and let's all help these kids. Appreciate it. Thank you.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors. Good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.